A locked garage, no cameras, no live streams, and for years, almost no one knew what was inside. To millions, IShowSpeed was pure chaos, non-stop energy, and viral unpredictability. But behind the noise, something else was building. Quietly, deliberately, hidden from the internet that watched his every move. And just minutes ago, that door was finally opened. What they found inside wasn't just unexpected, it completely changed everything. Because this wasn't content. This wasn't for views. This was personal. And what was uncovered inside that garage, no one was prepared for. For years, everything about IShowSpeed existed in full view. Every reaction, every outburst, every unpredictable moment streamed live to millions, creating an image that felt impossible to hide behind. It looked raw, unfiltered, almost chaotic to its core. But behind that constant exposure, something far more controlled was unfolding. At the center of the garage sat a Lamborghini Urus, aggressive, imposing, impossible to ignore. It looked exactly like the kind of machine people expected from IShowSpeed, loud in presence even when standing still. But the closer it was examined, the more something felt off. This wasn't just a showpiece parked for attention. The finish carried subtle wear, not damage, but signs of consistent use. The interior wasn't pristine in a showroom sense. It felt lived in, driven often, pushed beyond casual ownership. And then there were the small details. Slight performance tweaks. Components adjusted, not replaced for aesthetics, but for function. Nothing extreme, nothing obvious, but enough to suggest intention. It raised an immediate question. Because this level of involvement doesn't happen by accident. It requires time, understanding, and focus. And for someone whose public image revolves around chaos and spontaneity, this didn't align. This Urus wasn't just part of an image. It was part of a process. A starting point, maybe even a foundation for everything else inside that garage. And if this was the entry point, then whatever came next was going to reveal far more than anyone expected. Parked just a few feet away was something that didn't belong, at least not at first glance. A Tesla Model X. No aggressive stance, no engine noise, no presence that demanded attention. And yet, it felt just as intentional as everything else inside that garage. Because choosing something like this wasn't random. It was precise, controlled, almost calculated in contrast to everything people associate with IShowSpeed. The exterior looked clean, minimal, untouched by unnecessary modifications. But inside, small details told a different story. Settings adjusted, driving data logged, subtle personalization that pointed toward usage beyond casual driving. This wasn't a car for content. It wasn't built to impress. It was built to function, to operate in silence. And that silence carried weight, because it revealed something the public had never seen. Control, discipline, a side that didn't need noise to exist. And suddenly, the narrative shifted. Because if the loudest personality online was choosing something this quiet behind the scenes, then everything people thought they understood might only be half the truth. Further inside, the tone shifted again. A Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat sat waiting, wide, aggressive, and unapologetically loud, even at rest. This was the kind of machine that finally matched the public image of IShowSpeed. Raw power, unfiltered energy, the kind of car built to dominate attention the moment it moves. But once again, something didn't fully align. Because this wasn't just a stock Hellcat sitting untouched. There were signs of work. Not flashy upgrades meant to impress, but precise adjustments. Performance-focused tweaks. Components that suggested time had been spent understanding how the car behaved, not just how it looked. The stance felt slightly altered. The setup felt intentional. This wasn't chaos, it was controlled chaos. And that distinction changed everything. Because controlling something this powerful takes discipline. It takes knowledge. It takes patience. And none of those traits matched the version of him the internet had built. Which meant one thing. The persona people saw wasn't the full picture. Not even close. And if this car represented the chaos everyone knew, then what was the rest of the garage really trying to reveal? Deeper inside the garage, the energy shifted again. But this time it wasn't about power or presence. It was about the process. Sitting slightly apart from the others was a Ford Mustang GT, but unlike everything seen so far, this one didn't look complete. Panels weren't perfectly aligned. Certain sections were exposed, and scattered around it were tools that hadn't been put away, as if the work had only just paused moments before the doors were open. This wasn't a display piece. It wasn't polished or staged. It was mid-build, and that detail changed everything. Because unfinished work reveals intention in its rawest form. It shows what someone is trying to create before it's ready to be judged. And this Mustang carried that exact energy. Wiring partially installed, components waiting to be fitted, notes placed nearby, not for an audience, but as reminders of what still needed to be done. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't chaotic. It was methodical, step by step, decision by decision. For someone like IShowSpeed, whose public identity revolves around speed and impulse, this level of patience didn't make sense on the surface. But here, inside this garage, it was undeniable. This wasn't about quick results or viral moments. This was about building something over time, something personal, something that didn't need validation from anyone else. And the more this Mustang was examined, the clearer one thing became. This wasn't just another car in the collection. It was a reflection of a side no one had ever seen before. Focused, quiet, intentional, a side that existed completely outside the noise of the internet. And if this was what he was working on when no one was watching, then what else had been happening behind that closed door? Hidden deeper inside, away from the immediate line of sight, sat a Nissan GTR. Not positioned to impress, not placed for attention, almost as if it wasn't meant to be noticed at all. But the moment it came into focus, everything changed. Because this wasn't just another car in the garage. This was something else entirely. The exterior didn't scream for attention, but the closer it was examined, the more details began to surface. Subtle changes, performance-driven adjustments, components that had clearly been swapped, tuned, refined over time. This wasn't cosmetic. This was functional. And then came the signs that couldn't be ignored. Small notes placed inside. Observations. Numbers. Reminders. Not for content. Not for anyone else. Just for the person working on it. It revealed a level of involvement that went far beyond ownership. This was obsession. The kind that requires patience, repetition, and a deep understanding of how every part works together. And it didn't match the version of IShowSpeed the world had been watching. Because this level of precision doesn't come from chaos. It comes from control. The GTR didn't feel like a project that was just started. It felt like something that had been evolving, quietly, over time, adjusted again and again, not for perfection, but for something more personal. Something that only made sense to the one building it. And that made it the most revealing piece inside the entire garage. Because if this was the level of focus happening behind the scenes, then everything people thought they knew was incomplete. And suddenly, the question wasn't just about what was inside the garage. It was about how much had been happening without anyone ever realizing it. And then, almost placed as a contrast to everything else, sat a BMW i8. It didn't dominate the space like the others. It didn't demand attention. But somehow, it carried a presence that was impossible to ignore. Because unlike the raw aggression of the Hellcat or the unfinished intensity of the Mustang, this car felt balanced, controlled, almost symbolic in what it represented. The design itself already blurred lines. Futuristic, yet grounded. Sporty, yet efficient. Loud in appearance, but quiet in execution. And that duality reflected something deeper when placed inside this garage. Because everything about IShowSpeed had always been seen as extreme. One direction, full energy, no restraint. But this suggested something else entirely. Up close, the i8 carried the same pattern seen throughout the garage. Not untouched, not purely aesthetic. Small, intentional details. Settings adjusted. Usage that went beyond occasional drives. It wasn't there to fill space. It had a role, a purpose. And that purpose felt different from the rest. Because this car didn't represent power. It didn't represent chaos. It represented control, the ability to switch between states, to operate in two completely different modes without losing balance. And suddenly, it started to connect everything that had been seen so far. The Urus as power, the Tesla as silence, the Hellcat as controlled chaos, the Mustang as process, the GTR as obsession. And now, the i8 as the bridge between it all. Two identities, existing at the same time. One shown to the world, one hidden behind a locked door. And this car sat right in the middle of both. Not loud enough to define him publicly, Not quiet enough to disappear privately, just enough to reveal the truth. Because at this point, it wasn't just about cars anymore. It was about understanding the person behind them. And if this garage represented anything, it was that the version people thought they knew was only one side of a much larger story. In the end, what they found inside IShowSpeed's garage wasn't just a collection of cars, it was a breakdown of identity. Every vehicle told a different story. The Lamborghini Urus showed power. The Tesla revealed control. The Hellcat exposed chaos that wasn't as uncontrolled as it seemed. The Mustang proved patience. The GTR uncovered obsession. And the BMW i8 connected it all into something far more complex than anyone expected. Because none of this was random. None of it was built for attention. And that's what makes it different. In a world where everything is posted, shared, and turned into content, this garage existed in silence. No audience, no reactions, no validation, just process, just intention, just time spent building something that didn't need to be seen to matter. And that's where everything changes. Because the version of him the internet knows, the loud, unpredictable, chaotic personality, is only part of the story. The rest of it was hidden here, behind a locked door, in a space where noise didn't exist, where decisions were made slowly, where work happened without cameras. And now that it's been opened, the biggest shock isn't the cars themselves. It's what they represent. Discipline behind chaos. Control behind energy. Focus behind unpredictability. A completely different side that no one expected to exist. Because sometimes, the loudest people in the world are hiding the quietest realities. And sometimes, the things that matter most are the ones never meant to be seen.